Our financial situation is not very good. That is how the president opened up his speech. President William Ruto, as he was opening up the 13th Parliament. We will be analyzing his speech and also talking to Kenyans around the country to find out what they thought of the speech. And also later on, we will have a we will have a live studio interview for you. And in sports, Karen Kibet has all the action for you. I am Cynthia Nyamai. Let us have the highlights. Our financial situation is not very good. President William Ruto asserts as he directs implementation of the Hustlers Fund. Cultivating a saving culture. The government pledges a shilling for every 2 saved. Azimio it is. Ken Gondi is the new Speaker of Nairobi County Assembly. Well, we would like to hear your comments and your feedback. You can send it on our social media pages on Twitter, Facebook, and also Instagram. That is KBC Channel 1. Now, our financial situation is not very good. Remarks by President William Ruto in his inaugural address to the 13th Parliament. To correct this, President Ruto is urging Parliament to prioritize his implementation of the 50 billion shillings Hustler Fund, from which micro, small and medium enterprises would access affordable credit to start or expand their businesses. He further directed the National Treasury to source the 900 billion shillings over the next 3 years from savings by ministries to his government borrowing.
The national
Addressing the bicameral parliament, President William Ruto prioritized the country's financial stability, which he termed as not so good news.
Administration will allocate resources every year to the Hustler Fund.
President Ruto pledged 50 billion shillings annually towards the Hustler Fund, from which micro, small and medium enterprises can access affordable capital for starting or expanding their businesses. To this end, he urged legislators to prioritize requisite laws and policies to actualize the Hustler Fund.
We will capitalize on existing technology and innovation in the public and private sector to distribute the Hustler Fund as promised in our plan. I call upon financial institutions and our young people in innovation to participate in the digital economy by redesigning their products to serve the goal of empowering millions armed with grand ideas and are only waiting for the funds to finance their dreams.
President Ruto challenged digital firms to customize the solutions and programs that will enable funds transfer accurately and seamlessly. To grow Kenya to an upper middle income country, President Ruto directed National Treasury to work with ministries to find savings of up to 3 billion shillings annually over the next 3 years that would help the country reduce borrowing. In the current financial year, the government intends to borrow 900 billion shillings to bridge the budget deficit.
Because the market cannot sustain the kind of borrowing we are doing as government.
He urged the Kenya Revenue Authority to adopt a culture change to make it a people-friendly, customer-centric organization.
The economic principle of equitable taxation require that the tax burden reflects ability to pay.
Parliament resumes on Tuesday next week to debate the president's speech for 7 days. Regina Manyara reporting for Prime Edition.
A bid to cultivate a saving culture, the government has offered to top up a shilling for every 2 shilling one saves, capping at 6,000 shillings annually. President William Ruto says this will be through a national savings drive meant to encourage especially those in the informal sector to set up their retirement savings plan. As he backside narrates, this will be powered by an overhaul of the social security infrastructure.
Kenya's current national savings is under 10% of the gross domestic product, translating to an investment saving deficit of 15%. In his address to the 13th Parliament, President William Ruto advocated for a comprehensive national savings plan, which would propel the country to an upper middle income state by incentivizing savings.
For every 2 shillings saved in the scheme, up to a maximum of 6,000 a year, the government will contribute a shilling for every 2 shillings saved by the private sector. Meaning that every Kenyan who will save 6,000 a year, the government of Kenya will give them 3,000 shillings.
President Ruto says the National Social Security Fund has gaps that do not cater to a majority of low-income earners and especially those in the informal sector, forcing them into alternative saving methods that do not offer sufficient payback during retirement.
The NSSF and private only cater for people in formal employment, thereby excluding the vast majority of working Kenyans. There is no retired Kenyan today who is living on their NSSF retirement benefits. The meager current contribution of Kenya shillings 200 a month adds up to 72,000 over 30 years. There is no rate of return on earth that can grow this into an adequate pension.
The head of state disclosed the government's intention to restructure the NSSF due to the impractical returns it accrues over time.
The very large government borrowing requirements has also undermined the business sector contribution to national savings and investment efforts. These measures outlined above will also address the problem of government crowding out the private sector from the credit market. It will encourage banks to go back to lending to businesses and also bring down interest rates so that the private sector can also contribute to reducing the savings investment deficit.
President Ruto also spoke about turning the country's debt-laden state as borrowing to finance recurrent expenditure is unsustainable. He aims to make Kenya move from relying on borrowing about 900 billion shillings to finance the budget, as is the case in the current financial year, to have a recurrent budget surplus within the next 3 years. Hibak Said for Prime Edition.
President William Ruto says the solution to dealing with the drought menace facing over 3.5 million Kenyans now lies with mitigating the impact of climate change. Ruto says though the government has embarked on relief food distribution to those affected in the 23 arid and semi-arid areas, the solution is reversing the emission from fossil fuels.
While addressing the 13th Parliament, President Ruto said over 3.5 million Kenyans facing the adverse effects of drought in 23 arid and semi-arid counties are being supplied by relief food by the government.
As part of the response to the ongoing drought, we have embarked on distribution of relief supplies to 3.5 million Kenyans.
Dr. Ruto said in order to fight the cycle of drought in the country, Kenya must act urgently to keep global heating levels below 1.5 degrees centigrade by adopting renewable energy.
The ultimate solution to the drought cycle in our country is mitigation of climate change and its adverse effects. We must act urgently to keep global heating levels below 1.5% degrees centigrade, help those in need, promote the use of renewable energy, and thus end addiction to fossil fuels.
The president, who has been meeting development partners on how to address the adverse effects of drought, says he will be rooting for public-private partnership to undertake major projects, including raising water access to 80% from the current 60%. This, the president says, will enable the government to enter into water purchasing agreement with investors, a move he says will help in providing water for all in less than a decade. Beatrice Getonyongetich, Prime Edition.
Thank you, Beatrice, for that report. Now, the government is targeting to increase investments in agro-processing to boost its export volumes. President William Ruto has reiterated his policy of doing away with consumption subsidy to support agriculture at the production stage to boost yields and agro-processing to increase export volumes and earnings.
In July this year, imports increased 20.3% from 16 billion shillings to 19.6 billion shillings, while export increased 11.3% to 7.2 billion shillings, mainly driven by increased demand for Kenyan tea from traditional markets, manufactured goods, and receipts from horticulture international sales. To reduce the trade deficit, the government is seeking to increase investments in agriculture to spur export volumes and earnings. The investments will target to increase agricultural raw materials required by agro-based industries and manufacturing value chains.
On a mission to dramatically scale up productivity in agriculture and make sure that every Kenyan farmer, fisherman, and pastoralist contributes to sustainable economic growth by contributing to adequate and affordable food, generating greater incomes, and producing the raw materials required by the agro-industrial and manufacturing value chains.
President Ruto says the government will make agriculture more lucrative to farmers and other food producers besides creating job opportunities.
This will boost Kenya's export performance and create millions of jobs.
He reiterated the government's decision to abolish maize flour subsidy in favor of subsidizing fertilizer, saying investing in production is a key policy intervention to ensure food security.
One significant intervention is the resolve to abandon consumption subsidies in favor of supporting and investing in production. This is why we have made available fertilizer to our farmers at cheaper rates of 3,500 per 50 kilogram bag, down from 6,500.
Benson Rioba reporting for Prime Edition.
President William Ruto has supported MPs' efforts not to let go of control of the National Government Constituency Development Fund, or CDF. This coming barely a month after the Supreme Court declared the act establishing the fund as unconstitutional. The president said denying the MPs the control of the fund would be a big drawback and urged legislators to move fast and align the 103 million shilling annual fund with the Constitution.
In his maiden speech in Parliament as head of state, President William Ruto underscored the immense contribution made by the National Government Constituency Development Fund (NGCDF) that was outlawed by the Supreme Court a day before the August 9 general election.
I know the contribution to the National Government Constituency Development Fund has made in making life better for our citizens. Having served in Parliament for 15 years, before and after the establishment of the National Government CDF, I know the difference it makes is monumental. I believe there is a way CDF can be aligned to the tenets of the Constitution.
The head of state echoed legislators' concerns who have campaigned for its return, urging both houses to work together to set up a Senate Oversight Fund.
With regard to the Senate and its constitutional mandate, I believe the two houses should work together to set up the Senate Oversight Fund. This will be used to provide oversight of the millions of resources that are sent to counties.
In its judgment, the 5-judge bench led by Chief Justice Martha Koome ruled that CDF Act violates the principle of separation of powers and declared the act unconstitutional. Last week, during the induction workshop for legislators, Koome revealed the reasons why the Supreme Court declared the Constituency Development Fund CDF illegal, stating that the kitty offended the division of functions between national and county governments.
In the CDF case 2022, the Supreme Court held that it is unconstitutional to allocate funds to the CDF before the division of revenue between the national and county governments. In addition, it was the position of the Supreme Court that the CDF offends the division of functions between the national and county governments.
Outgoing National Treasury C.S. Ukuri Yatani added to the turmoil after he said he was not going to disburse any cash, but noted he had sought an advisory from the Attorney General on the same. A group of NGOs had moved to court claiming it was unconstitutional as legislators were involved in implementing taxpayers-funded projects, which they argued was a preserve of the executive arm of government. The fund came in force as Constituency Development Fund in 2003 after a bill sponsored by the then Olkalau MP Muriuki Karue sailed through Parliament, was assented to and became law. It was later amended by the NGCDF Act of 2015. For Prime Edition, I'm Ben Troenjue.
Well, President William Ruto has called for bipartisan support from the members of parliament to ensure the legislative agenda is achieved. President Ruto said his administration is pursuing a transformational program that seeks to uniquely bring Kenyans together by encouraging unity of purpose in the legislature. The president at the same time asked parliament to do what is within their power for cabinet secretaries to honor summons by the august house. Kamche Menza reports.
The 13th Parliament is now properly convened after official opening by President William Ruto, as guided by Article 132, subsection 1 of the Constitution. Addressing the inaugural session, President Ruto was categorical of the support he requires from the legislative arm of government.
I want to persuade you that the legislative agenda I stand here to prosecute deserves the bipartisan support of this House. My administration is pursuing a transformational program that offers a uniquely all-Kenyan moment, which calls for unity of purpose in the legislature.
The head of state weighed in on the issue of cabinet secretaries appearing before Parliament to address matters of concern to the public.
I ask Parliament to consider a mechanism in the standing orders to facilitate cabinet secretaries to articulate government agenda, explain policy, and answer questions on the floor of the House to enhance executive accountability to the people of Kenya through their elected representatives.
President Ruto also called for establishment of Senate oversight funds to enable the legislators effectively keep track of usage of public resources in the devolved units.
My administration commits to restore the place of Parliament in our democracy by respecting the autonomy and oversight authority of Parliament on the executive. We are committed to serving all Kenyans in all wards of each constituency and all counties in every region throughout the Republic of Kenya. After all, we all serve the same boss, the people.
Senators have been raising concerns over lack of a kitty to facilitate execution of their mandate.
President William Ruto's inaugural address in Parliament has been received with mixed reactions from Kenyans. While a number of them feel the speech touched on the most important of issues affecting Kenyans' lives, ranging from drought mitigation to the debt burden issues, others feel like it is time for the Ruto-led administration to walk the talk and revive the country's economy. Here are some of their views.
I think one of the things that the president must deal with is the issue of corruption. I think that is a concern of everybody. If it is done from the top.
It's about a time, indeed, we have to reduce the culture of borrowing, because that is living on a life support system. You don't know when the life support system will be pulled out and whether the patient will survive.
I think the time for democracy and politics is over. It is time for governance. And the only way you can govern is if you have a united house. So I think it is a good thing from the president to tell our elected leaders to work in unison and to work for one Kenya.
Hata akisema tuende nje tukopeshe pesa, ni bado sisi wananchi ndio tutadaiwa hiyo pesa. Na tukisema pia tuitoe ndani hapa kulingana na ile income tax tunapata within our local consumptions, pia ni ngumu kwa sababu ya itakuwa ni bado sisi ndio tutakuwa tunalipa, na kusema ukweli pia tax vitu zitakuwa zimepanda kwa sababu hiyo pesa itakuwa tunataka itoke kwa sisi wenyewe.
Hata kama amesema mambo ya hasira, yeye mwenyewe anapopatia ule mtu kazi, yeye mwenyewe aende aiangalie inafanywa namna gani, kwa sababu si watu wote walio na nia nzuri kuhusu Mkenya.
Ile mipango yake amesema tukope zile pesa zikope internally na zizalishane hapa internally through banks za hapa, itakuwa mzuri.
A platform where even the non-formal employed people just at home and so on, can be able to pay that NSSF. You get the point. Although so much it was created for people who are working, but you can create a form of NSSF whereby even if I'm a farmer and I'm not employed anywhere, I can, so that when I reach a certain age when I'm less productive, I'm weak and so on, I can begin getting some money from that very fund.
Well, your feedback is important. We'll be taking a short break, but when we come back, I will be joined in studio by the MP from Busia, and we will be talking about the president's speech today. You do not want to miss that.
Kupata skiza tune ya mambo mema, dial *811*815#.
Mambo mema huwaendea watu wanaosubiri, ila mambo mema zaidi huwaendea watu wanaoyatafuta. Kupata mambo mema ni kufanikiwa, na kufanikiwa ni kutabasamu, kutafakari na kuhesabu mema na baraka ulizozichukulia hatua, ukazitafuta na kuzipata. Amka, tafuta ufanisi wako.
Kupata skiza tune ya mambo mema, dial *811*815#. *811*815#.
I'm the photographer of Black Milk. I have an exhibition in 8 weeks about how things get better with time. Darling Fluffy Kinky inspired me. I'm seeing how the twists blend with her hair over time. How she actually feels more confident. She's really more beautiful every week. That's definitely worth celebrating. Darling Fluffy Kinky. Twists that get better every day, just like you.
Welcome back. Now, Parliament was abuzz today with anxiety over the opening of its first session after the elections by the country's fifth president. It was a colourful scene as military officers mounted a guard of honour outside Parliament for the president's inspection. Here's Gladys Mungai with the lighter moments.
At exactly 2:30 p.m., the guard of honour by the military officers took its position outside Parliament, ready to usher in the president. For his inaugural address to the joint bicameral sitting. A few minutes later, the presidential entourage made its way to Parliament, where the head of state meticulously inspected his first guard of honour. Before heading to the ceremonial dais, speakers of both houses donned in ceremonial attire received the president as he shook hands with various dignitaries and top officials in government. Inside the chambers, members waited anxiously for the president's grand entry. Shortly after, the mace, clerks, religious leaders, judiciary, and then the speakers, followed by the president, made their way into the chamber. The business of the house commenced with prayers from different faiths.
William Samoei Ruto nara ninye walari gonilang ola sojira ninye yo moni yanga ya tama yana nijanga.
After a 30-minute speech, the House sitting was adjourned, with members going into an interaction session reflecting on the day. For Prime Edition, I'm Gladys Mungai.
Well, to some sad news where Hamisi Temo, a renowned veteran broadcaster, has passed on. Temo died while undergoing treatment at Coptic Hospital in Nairobi, where he had been admitted on Wednesday after complaining of stomach pains. Doctors suspected the problem to be a blockage in the large colon, for which surgery was undertaken. His condition, however, got worse today, and he was rushed to the high dependency unit, where he succumbed at around 6:30 p.m. Temo had an illustrious broadcasting career at Kenya Broadcasting Corporation spanning over 2 decades. He died at the age of 72, and he is survived by a widow, 4 sons, and a daughter. Our condolences to his family. Now, Ken Gondi is the newly elected Speaker of Nairobi County Assembly. Gondi and Azimio garnered 68 votes against Kenya's Kwanza's Hassan Rabo, who got 54 votes. Gondi won in the second round of the voting after the first round failed to meet the 2/3 threshold. In the first round, Gondi had won with 71 votes against Rabo, who got 52 votes.
Order. Early on Thursday, 123 members of the 3rd County Assembly of Nairobi got sworn in following a gazettement of the sitting by Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja. The ceremony, which was presided over by Assembly Clerk Edward Gishana, saw the 123 members successfully sworn in, with 85 of them being elected and 39 nominated by their respective parties. After the swearing in, the MCAs proceeded to elect the Speaker of the County Assembly in a race that pit Azimio's Ken Gondi against Kenya Kwanza's Mohamed Hassan.
I, Kennedy Okeo Ngondi, having been elected the Speaker of the County Assembly of Nairobi City, do swear that I shall always truly and diligently serve the people and the Republic of Kenya in the office of the Speaker will. So help me God.
Gondi, who is the former Nairobi County Assembly Deputy Speaker, won the race and will now take over, leading the assembly of 124 MCAs in formulating policies that will affect the capital city's residents. One of the MCAs from Utawala was not sworn in because there was no election in that ward after the demise of one of the two aspirants.
There is no interruption of government service delivery. Kazi zinaendelea pale Utawala. Sasa hivi you go there, kuna Utawala Kentina Murandi Road yenye tunatengeneza.
Going forward, one of the huge tasks for members of County Assembly will be to form committees and also have chairpersons of these committees in place. This as city residents expect members of County Assembly to deliver on their mandate and also on the pledges they made to the people during the campaign period. Irene Chuma Udem, the Prime Edition in the county of Nairobi.
I like calling myself more of a seamstress than a designer.
Seamstress.
Yes.
Hiyo ni kizungu mingi sana. Sio mimi nimesema.
Let me call a shovel. Do you feel that you can bring your very best to this, but eventually the politics would take the day?
Do not assume music. If you're in the political class and you assume music, that's your downfall. Because music can change things in 1 week. That's why they said, we are no longer scared of you. You know, you're just a ghost that cannot scare us anymore, you know?
The construction industry in Kenya is facing a crisis of confidence. 20% of all buildings in the country will not withstand an earthquake, while 58% do not adhere to regulatory standards. And this is but a tip of the iceberg. Are there remedial measures?
National Construction Authority, Engineers Board of Kenya, and the Board of Registration Architects and Quantity Surveyors, BORAX, have already signed MOU, a working arrangement which ensures that we work together for the sake and the safety of the built environment, and that's very key.
This week on Inside the Government, we're talking to the Executive Director of the National Construction Authority, Engineer Maurice Akech. And the question is, are there remedial measures and what is the way forward? Watch the conversation right here on KBC Channel 1.
Welcome back. It's now time for business. Prudential PLC has rolled out a program on financial inclusion and literacy that aims to instill sound financial habits and responsibility in children. The initiative aims to impact 2 million children by next year.
According to data from the Program for International Student Assessment, 22% of teenagers lack a foundation in basic financial skills. This has prompted action from stakeholders within the financial industry to address the gaps through empowerment programs on money management. Designed for children aged between 7 and 12, the Chaching Kids at Home program includes materials that guide parents on teaching key management concepts including earning, saving, spending and donating in an interactive and engaging way. Furthermore, the program involves challenges that take approximately 15 minutes to complete, aiming to encourage parents to incorporate discussions around money with their children as part of their daily life.
So the Chaching program essentially teaches children about money smart skills, and we peg that on very simple and bite-sized content around earning, saving, spending and donating.
Speakers noted a data gap on the financial inclusion rates for children under 15.
Our vision, though, was to get content that would be educative. Everything should have a learning outcome. It should also be entertaining, because if it isn't entertaining, who's going to watch it? And then using our Kenyan programming team, asking the question, will the program work here?
Additionally, they said that the idea of money management had solely been left to parents and thus could not be critically followed up on. They called on the government to promote more financial concepts in school curriculums that will equip children on how to make informed decisions with regards to money issues.
The program's objective is to create a positive and measurable impact on students' knowledge, skills, and behavior on financial literacy.
In Africa, the Chaching curriculum has been implemented in Ghana, Kenya, Uganda, and Zambia through volunteers since 2016 with the aim of raising a generation of financially literate children. Children, indeed, are the future leaders of tomorrow, and by equipping them with the necessary financial skills needed from their young age, financial crisis can be a thing of the past. Reporting for Prime Edition, my name is Nduta Mokami.
Thank you, Nduta, for that story. Now, women-led businesses have less access to favorable terms when seeking credit facilities despite displaying more financial discipline in operations than their male counterparts. Lenders are being encouraged to reserve a portion of their loan portfolio to women-focused business and promote financial inclusion. EcoBank Consumer Banking Director Jane Jelagat says women-led businesses are underserved financial institutions should avail value-added services to the niche group.
A third of registered micro, small and medium enterprises in Kenya are solely owned by women. Despite this, women still do not have equal access to quality and demand-driven financial services, translating to a $42 billion financing gap in the continent.
Reach out to the women, extend financing, training and support in SME, because we understand that when you empower a woman all the way up in their journey in business, you actually carry many along, enable them to get access to good credit, good banking and finance advice to grow their families and the community at large, and overall have an impact in the economy.
Financial institutions are being encouraged to provide comprehensive and customized services to cater to these needs. Financial sector players advocate for a percentage of their loan portfolio being preserved for women-led businesses.
We believe women can come forthright. We all have come places. We know the journey. We learn quickly, we fall fast and rise fast. So women carrying many along do not have to have self-limiting beliefs. Conquer that, come, borrow, grow.
Because I just need to get my systems in place. So I feel like, yes, the bank is there to give you the funding, but if you don't have good, proper systems, you won't be able to run a successful branch.
They say having a standard amount would ensure an equitable environment for these businesses to thrive. Could gender bias and a lack of access to favorable loans be what's holding fempreneurs back? Hibak Said for Prime Edition.
Kenyans have hailed the government's move to pardon over 4 million Kenyans blacklisted by the Credit Reference Bureau. President William Ruto said the move is aimed at allowing more Kenyans to service their loans and access more loans. On a spot check by KBC Channel 1, Kiambu and Busia residents hailed the move, saying it will enable those previously listed to do business.
Wale vijana wa chini wanaweza chukua ile mkopo kuweza kujikimu. Tunaona mali hali ya maisha ambapo umetufikisha. Kwa saa hii itabidi wamechukua loan, wameendeza mkopo ndio waweze kustabilize, ndio kwa mwaka mwingine moja ama mbili serikali ikiwa imeshakita mizizi iko imara, tunaweza anza kuenda stories za employment hiyo kwa ajira sasa kuandika katika idara mbalimbali serikalini. Lakini kwa saa hii mikopo itaweza kuwasaidia.
Kumaanisha ni njia moja ya kupanua uchumi, sababu wakati wengi watachukua ile pesa ya Furiza, basi inamaanisha wengi wataweza kuweka zile biashara, wataweza kuzimudu. Kumaanisha ni njia mzuri, na ningesema wengi waweze kuangalia njia kama ile, iwe ni moja ya kufanya biashara zao zinawiri, iwe ni moja mahali unaweza kimbia ukapata pesa ya haraka. Kumbuka wengi wa Kenya wengi, the bigger percentage wanafanya hizi biashara za chini. Kwa hivyo ni wananchi wanahitaji pesa ya kila siku ya haraka, kumaanisha kama
in fact the best part niyo ya kupunguza grace period. Watu wamekuwa wanasafa sana, umechukua loan ya fuliza na kidogo kidogo mtu anakutumia pesa kidogo inachukuliwa, unashindwa kufanyia kitu ambacho ulikuwa unataka kufanyia. Kwa hivyo kama wanabiashara tunashukuru sana kwa hiyo kuweza kutupatia hiyo grace period, na wacha tuone vile tutaendelea kufanya biashara kama Hustler Nation.
Kuondolea masharti wale ambao wamekuwa blacklisted sasa wanaweza chukua loan.
Kulingana na maoni yale rais alitoa kuhusu mambo ya furisa na vitu vingine percentage na pia CRP, mimi naonelea ni achambo, isipokuwa hii vitu itakuja kuleta ufifu sana kwa Wakenya. Wakenya watakuwa wanategemea hiyo, anachukua pesa, anaenda anafanya vile anafanya, tena narudi anachukua ingine, hata ngawa analipa. Lakini haitakuwa na ile bidii ya Mkenya kujitafutia ndiye apate kitu ambaye anaweza kumsaidia at the same time.
Kubali kutoa hii ushuru ya furisa, tumekubaliana nayo. Tunaomba wahusika wa hawa furisa wakubali kuendelea kutupea loan, hata kama nimeremewa kidogo. Tafadhali tunawasihi wawe wanatupea loan kidogo kidogo ili tuweze kuchimudu katika maisha hii ya kiulimwengu. Hata hivyo pia leo asubuhi nilienda kulipa loan yangu, nikaona wametoa shilingi 5 kwa ile president alikuwa ameongea juu yake. Hata hivyo nimeshukuru na nimempongeza, aendelee kuangalia hata sekta zingine kama vile mafuta imetufinya na vitu vingine katika dunia hii.
Reduce the interest rate and also come up with another kit of assisting poor people. Start the fund of assisting the lower middle scale entrepreneurs. That's what Kenyans we want. We don't want people to be removed from CRC because that's a way of encouraging laziness. Let people must work.
The cost of credit has increased following a decision by central bank policymakers to hike the benchmark lending rate from 7.50% to 8.25%. The policymakers attribute the decision to tighten their monetary policy to sustained inflation pressures, the elevated global risks, and their potential impact on the domestic economy. The rate of inflation has risen to a 62-month high driven by increases in the food and fuel prices. The central bank policymakers noted that there was growth in the private sector credit that stood at 12.5% in August 2022 compared to 12.3% in June. We will give you more details in the next bulletins, including what will emerge tomorrow during the Post-Monetary Policy Committee meeting by Central Bank Governor, that is Dr. Patrick Njoroge. Now, moving on, the endangered hawksbill is one of the rare turtles in the world, often spotted in the tropical waters, including the Indian Ocean. The hawksbill turtle, which has rare features such as the V-shaped lower jaws, is a key tourist attraction at the coast. Tonight on Magical Scenes, we focus on the hawksbill turtle.
Visible, yes, they are. If you are lucky, you go snorkeling, you can see them. And mostly during the southeast monsoon, when the cold area season, when you have rainfalls from March, April, May, June, July, that's when you tend to have a lot of nesting of these species. They come on the beach to nest. And if you go into the ocean, yes, you'll probably run into one or two of them.
Nature enthusiasts say marine life reflects magic of beauty in nature, and the ocean is a paradise of marine life besides supporting tourism. The next time you visit the coastal part of Kenya, not only prioritize water sports and beach walks, but also make it an agenda to spot the rare hawksbill turtle. Irene Mchuma Odim, Magical Scenes.
Well, now it's time for sports. Karen Kibet will be telling us about the FKF transition coming up shortly.
Thank you very much, Cynthia, Nyamai, for keeping us up to speed with what's happening in the country. Let's now delve into matters sports. My name is Karen Kibet. The outgoing Sports Cabinet Secretary, Dr. Amina Mohamed, has hailed the Football Kenya Federation Transition Committee for putting in place proper structures aimed at reforming the state of football standards in the country. Amina disbanded FKF and formed a caretaker and subsequently a transition committee led by retired Judge Aaron Ringera to take charge of all football activities in Kenya in temporary capacity.
Speaking at the Moi International Sports Center, Kasrani, during a committee meeting with the sports editors to deliberate on gains made in Kenyan football after disbandment of former regime, the career diplomat and professional lawyer noted that the committee has laid firm foundation geared towards restoring the lost glory of Kenyan soccer.
We decided that we would use the information that we got and are very grateful from you, and that where you pointed out some of the issues that were affecting our football, and put that to the test. And so we had conversations, very, very many conversations with the team that left. We also then engaged the services of our registrar.
Sports editors, on the other hand, reiterated their commitments towards bettering the game through supporting the government initiatives aimed at promoting the growth and development of sport in the country.
And we want to make sure that it serves the purpose, that our young men and women can make a livelihood out of their talent. It's God-given, and that they're not cheated out of the opportunities that are out there.
Amina disbanded FKF and formed a caretaker and subsequently a transitional committee led by retired Judge Aaron Ringera to take charge of all football activities in Kenya in temporary capacity. Sports Cabinet Secretary nominee Ababu Namwamba has already promised to work on the sports in the country as soon as he gets to work. For Prime Edition Sports, I'm Daniel Mwendwa.
Thank you, Dan, for that report. Moving on, the former Kenyan champions Equity Bank secured a slot in the quarterfinals of the FIBA Africa Zone 5 Women's Basketball Championships after registering a convincing 78-37 win over debutants Nile Legends from South Sudan. The regional championship entered day 4 on Thursday in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania.
The Bankers tried in vain to recapture the trophy they surrendered in 2018 to Uganda's Dolphin last year, but failed at the hands of Kenya Ports Authority, who humbled them in the finals. Equity Bank, who were being cheered by KPA players in solidarity, gave the Nile Legends from South Sudan a hard time, taking a 18-9 lead in the first quarter before extending the lead to a comfortable 39-18 at the breather. The Njeri Kamau Chargers, who had lost 51-49 to Alexandria of Egypt in their opening match, won the third quarter 2011 before sealing it with a 19-8 win in the fourth quarter. Shani Agalo was the top scorer for the Bankers with 15 points, while Christina Akinyi scored 14 points as Ann Rose Atieno and Linda Sinandako tied on 8 points. The winner of the zone championship will automatically qualify for the FIBA African Championships slated in December.
Commonwealth Super Lightweight champion Sarah Achieng will defend her title against former World Boxing Council champion Melissa Hernandez of Puerto Rico in a 10-round fight at Kenyatta International Convention Center in Nairobi. After missing the trip to the United States of America for the Women International Boxing Federation title fight against Ikram Kerwat of Germany in June, Achieng has stated that she is ready to deliver her dream results. The previous fight, which was to take place in Cleveland, Ohio, June this year, was cancelled after Achieng failed to get a USA visa. Hernandez and Achieng have never faced each other in any fight before, and it will be interesting to see how the two boxers fare against each other. And those are all the sports stories we had for you tonight. My name is Karen Kibet. Have yourself a peaceful night. The broadcast is not yet over. I hand you back to my colleague Cynthia Nyamai. Cynthia, take it away.
Question going to be under general knowledge.
3 counties.
3 counties. That's your final answer?
Wrong
answer. Oh, that is the wrong answer. You have 3, 2, 1, go. Genius, he says Nakuru County. Is that answer correct?
Correct answer.
That answer is correct. You get 2,000 bob. Oh, geography 10.
Well, today we have been talking about the 13th Parliament and President Ruto's speech. And in studio, as I promised, we do have the MP for, earlier on I'd said Busia, but it's actually Teso South. I'm sorry for that mistake that I had made earlier. But I am joined by Mheshimiwa Mary Emase. Thank you so much for joining us today. Let me first start by asking, and we've had views from Kenyans just talking about the president's speech. What was your take from his speech today?
The president's speech today was very brief.
Yes.
Surprisingly,
Yes.
we expected a long speech as is the tradition.
Yes.
But I would like to say it majorly mirrored on his inauguration speech,
Yes.
on the agenda of Kenya Kwanza for Kenyans, as expressed by himself during his inauguration on the 13th.
Yes.
He was very brief, spot on, and to the point. It was basically a summary of what he had already expressed to Kenyans.
Yes.
He touched on issues of health, the reforms that he intends to bring, the proposals to Parliament to improve on the NHIF. He spoke on the issue of oversight.
Yes.
And was very passionate about oversight, that Parliament should be able to oversight both the 2 houses.
Yes.
And that his government will depend on the reports of the oversight
Yes.
to implement whatever recommendations.
Yes.
He also spoke about the CDF having been an MP.
Yes.
Being a best example of the bottom-up, starting from MP through the ranks up to becoming the President of the Republic of Kenya. He confessed that the CDF has done a lot.
Yes.
And that members of Parliament should be able to follow the legal avenues to anchor it either to the Constitution so that that fund continues to be there and to provide, help MPs provide development to the people of Kenya. Yes.
And in his speech, you could tell, and he even started by talking about the economy and that it's doing not so well.
Yes.
And a lot of the things that he talked about has to do with the Kenyan economy.
Yes.
And he spoke about even just cutting on spending and telling National Treasury that he expects a saving of the next 3 years of around 300 billion annually.
Yes.
What are some of the areas that Treasury can look into to be able to make such a huge cut?
There are a number of areas that Treasury could look into. One of the ways is to cut down on non-essential expenditure.
Yes.
There are a number of expenditures that the National Treasury would focus on, like travel. There are certain travel expenditures or travel that can be postponed. They can wait. On areas of entertainment,
yes,
there are certain expenditures that we can do away with. We can survive without them.
Yes.
And business will continue. And also, National Treasury should also not only focus on cutting on expenditure, but also focus on how to maximize revenue collection. By working closely with the KRA and also expanding the tax base Of course, that would come through the finance bill that actually proposes means on how to enhance revenue that would be collected within a particular year. And also broaden the tax base. You know, there are very many Kenyans in the informal sector that are actually not paying taxes.
Yes.
And I remember the president also touching on it on one of his speeches, that let us be patriotic, and any patriotic Kenyan should be willing voluntarily to pay taxes. So if National Treasury can come up with proposals, if they need legislation, bring them to the National Assembly, and then we look into that, and then we'll ensure that the revenue collected is enhanced, while at the same time National Treasury looks at those non-essential services and goods that can be put on hold as we wait. And also the issue of corruption must also be dealt with, because a lot of money is lost through corruption.
Yes.
So if that is also looked at, and then we minimize the amount of wastage through corruption by empowering, making sure that National Treasury has given Auditor General the oversight institutions enough funding and capacity to be able to deal with issues, corruption, EACC, control of budget, Auditor General, then I'm sure we will be able to achieve that particular objective as proposed by the president.
Yes, in fact, we did see also nominated MP John Badi also speak on the same and said if we're able to cut on some of the costs and also corruption, the nation can save up to 500 billion every year. But what would be the impact if the National Treasury was able to get to the 300 billion as the president did suggest every year? What would be the impact of the economy and also the various ministries?
What I would say, in the short term, economic growth will be slowed. But in the long run, we will have saved enough money, and as a country we'll be able to finance our debt and reduce the amount of money we are borrowing, and then we would have spared enough money to put into development projects.
Yes.
And once more money now is put into development projects, then we will have spurred growth, and I believe this country will get back to its foot.
Yes. Talking about saving, the president did talk about giving Kenyans incentives to save. So if you save around 6,000, the government will give you 3,000. How will this be implemented?
What the president said, actually, he gave an example, a real situation, a current situation, where Kenyans are struggling, even to save or to invest. Majority of Kenyans can afford to maybe buy, he referred to an eighth of a plot to develop maybe a home, or saving 200 with NSSF. And eventually by the time this person retires, that money is inadequate, it's not sufficient to sustain them. So he said the proposal he'll be bringing is for us to introduce reforms that will encourage Kenyans to save. In other words, is proposing a strategy where we begin to inculcate a saving culture into society. Whereby everyone is encouraged to save, because currently those who are saving with NSSA, for example, are those within the formal employment. We have so many people in informal employment whom should be accommodated. He's saying all these people should be accommodated. We should have a system whereby we're able to accommodate all these people so that there's inclusivity, all of them can be able to save. So the incentive is that people are encouraged to save. And for every 2 shillings you are saving, government will add a shilling. So assuming you've saved 6,000 per year to a maximum of 6,000, you've saved 6,000 per year, then the government will add 3,000. So in total, your savings will be 9,000 that particular year. So that will encourage many people to be in the informal sector to begin to save. And then the more we save, the more we will have monies within which these institutions like NSSF can invest, government can invest that money, and by the time these people are retiring, they have sufficient funds at least to help them, you know, live a decent life or invest.
Yes. But how do we get the nation and the citizens at this time to save when we have seen that the cost of living has gone up? And even as we were speaking to Kenyans all over the country, that is the one thing that they were saying, that yes, they would love to invest, they're happy about the incentives, but how are we going to get the nation to do it when the cost of living is going up and it's not like the incomes are going up?
I think first and foremost, we need to pass the message across. The message has to sink. Kenyans need to appreciate the fact that it's important to save. And then secondly, you heard the president talking about the economy, talking about the Hustler Fund, talking about the housing project, which is meant to actually create employment and also encourage you know, the coming in of this industries, the Juakali industries, because once we start housing, they will need a lot of other materials, so there will be people supplying so many other materials. So that in itself will get money circulating. And will get money to the hands of the people. Then secondly, the issue of the Hustler Fund, that will be channeled through the cooperatives, that will provide credit. There are very many Kenyans, even the young people, who tell us, Mheshimiwa, I want to start a business but I have no capital. Borrowing from the Fliza, from M-Shwari, from all these other institutions has been a big challenge. Many of them who are listed in the, you know, blacklisted. But we are happy that already you heard the president saying he has engaged the operators. And they have already accepted to cut down the interest by 50%. Mshwari and Fuliza have already accepted, and the interest rates have dropped. So all that will help, will go a long way in encouraging many people to start small businesses, and then people will be generating income. And when they generate income, that's the only time they can be able to save. You cannot save what you've not earned. So first, we need to create opportunities, create a conducive business environment where people can start businesses, people can go along doing their day-to-day activities to generate generating activities to generate money, or create employment opportunities where people can secure employment. Then that way they can be able to earn income. Then from the income they're able to make savings. So all this will contribute to us.
Earlier on, you mentioned about the president talking about the oversight, that Parliament should be able to take this function more seriously. And I was listening to it and thinking, you know, he has taken up the majority. How will this be taken seriously? Like, for example, he has given a list of cabinet. There's the nomination that we just saw the other day. There are a few people who have court cases. Are we going to see this Parliament actually saying no to some of the proposals of the executive or of the president?
Yes, we have committees in that house. We have a committee on selection and appointments that will be dealing with the issue of appointments. I believe once the names are forwarded in Parliament, they will be submitted to that particular committee that will interrogate, that will interview, and then finally they'll give their verdict on whether the nominees are suitable for the positions or not. So I believe that is something that the committee will, and once they have done that report, the report will still be submitted to the floor of the House for the entire Parliament, National Assembly, to debate on it, and even the Senate. So I believe we will have an opportunity to give our views and to make a decision as a House on the suitability of the candidates. But even for those who have cases in court, our law is very clear. they are considered innocent until
proven
guilty.
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
so we cannot really...
It's just that people are like, some people shouldn't make it on that list, especially when they have such serious cases against them. But the other issue that has been coming up when we're talking to Kenyans, they were saying that the cost of living in Kenya is spiraling and just going upwards every single day. What is this government planning to do about it?
When you look at this government's agenda, in fact, our president's concern is the state of the economy, is the state of our national debt. And if you look at his agenda, starting from agriculture.
Yes.
Just the other day, he in his pronouncements, he said, we're not going to put a subsidy on consumption. He's transferring it to production. Because when we put it on consumption, it will not be sustainable. We will be lying to the Kenyans that we brought prices down, but sooner or later, those prices will go up again.
Yes.
So he felt that it's important we look at the root cause of the problem. Let us take the subsidy to production. Provide farmers with the fertilizer. Provide farmers with the capacity building, provide farmers with seedlings, provide them what they need at the production level so that they can produce more food. For example, when we have more in the market, the economy itself brings, the prices will come down automatically. When we have more production, then the prices will come down. But if we continue subsidizing and we are producing less, the demand is more than the supply, then the situation will persist and continue. So that is one of the ways that the approach is using to help address the issue of inflation as far as prices are concerned. Apart from that, the other one is the issue of, you talked of the housing project.
Yes.
And we are targeting 25,000 per year.
Yes.
That program is also intended to create more employment opportunities for the people of Kenya, and also to give more business to the entrepreneurs. By doing that again, we will help put money into people's pockets.
Yes.
And when people have at least some income, then they can be able to afford to buy some of these basic things. If you look at even the other program on health, NHIF, if the proposals, the reforms that are being proposed are implemented, then we will have Kenyans.
Yes.
Even, most of the Kenyans today are dying not because their days have reached, because of poverty.
Yes.
They cannot afford medication.
Yes.
But if we improve on NHIF, where those who earn more pay more.
Yes.
And that helps to cater for even those who do not have, who pay less. And everyone has an NHIF card and can afford to go to hospital and get treatment.
Yes.
Then we have a health nation.
Yes.
When you have a health nation, then you have a nation that can work and produce. And all that,
and the economy
will grow.
Thank you so much.
But if you have a sick nation that cannot be able to work and produce, then you cannot grow the economy.
Yes, yes. Unfortunately, my director tells me we are running out of time, but Mheshimiwa Mary Masi, I want to say thank you very much for joining us tonight. From me and the rest of the team, I do want to wish you a very good night.
Thank you.